Hi guys, so just a few days ago, Donald Trump, while on the campaign trail, encouraged Russia to attack members of NATO who he believes are not pulling their weight. Now this of course set off alarm bells within the alliance and countries of the former Soviet bloc. This is reckless for a number of reasons. First, it puts not just NATO members in danger, but also US troops stationed in those countries. It attempts to divide the alliance, which is to Putin's end, and undermine an already weakening coalition of support for Ukraine. However, could Trump's attempt to score a few brownie points at home actually help NATO? And what does this say for Tories who've been singing praise of Donald Trump in the last few weeks? Former Conservative Defence Minister Tobias Ellwood had this to say.
When you heard what Trump had to say at the weekend, what were your first thoughts?
I was astonished and baffled. This is so irresponsible. It's arguably the most irresponsible comment any former president has made on international security, to encourage an adversary that's already taking chunks out of Eastern Europe to then encourage them to invade a NATO ally. It's not surprising that Jens Stoltenberg, the head of NATO, has condemned these comments. But Putin, who's had a good week after that Tucker Carlson interview, is probably delighted, given the fractions, if you like, in the West itself, when we should be focusing on putting that fire out in Ukraine. But when you speak to or listen to those close to Trump, they say, oh, it's just what they say on the campaign stomp. That's populism, telling people what they want to hear, knowing that those policies or promises will not survive contact with reality. And that is very, very dangerous indeed, because it could lead to miscalculation. If Trump is saying this about our allies, what would he be saying about our adversaries, which could be misinterpreted? This is very dangerous indeed.
To his wider point, though, which is that if you don't pay 2% of your GDP to NATO, then it's costing your allies. I mean, Greece remains the alliance's biggest spender, 3.59%. Apparently, we're just squeak over the 2% in the UK. But there are lots of other countries, including Germany, that doesn't pay their way.
Absolutely right. Germany does need to do more.
But this is not the way to go about it, okay? To call for attacks on these countries. And as I pointed out, there are US troops stationed in many of these countries. Now, I want to move away from that for a moment, because it's interesting that, unfortunately for Sky News, they didn't bring up the point that Boris Johnson, Jacob Rees-Mogg and others within the Conservative Party were singing praise of Donald Trump just recently. Do they want to correct the record? Do they still support Donald Trump, even though he has called for an attack on members of NATO? The UK, of course, is a member of NATO, so an attack on the alliance, on UK allies. But the other point is how I think this will actually help NATO. So you're going to see countries like Germany who will be under pressure now to increase their military spending, to respect the threshold that NATO requires. So this may actually strengthen the alliance. The idea that Donald Trump wants to put members in harm's way may result in the European members of NATO in particular coming together and saying, look, we can't rely on the US anymore. There's a chance that Donald Trump will get back into power. We need to take control of the situation. And I think this is also going to result in stronger calls for a European army. Now, I don't know whether that's going to go ahead or not, but if the US is an unreliable ally with Donald Trump in charge, I think other NATO members or the European Union may look to forming their own alliance or an alliance within an alliance. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think about all of this. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.